Hello, gentlemen, and welcome to another Pal of You Market Research video. The best videos you've ever seen, most educational, and somehow a little bit entertaining at the same time. Whoa. Now, what are we talking about today? We're talking about ego defenses and the psychology of self-deception. It's a very niche area of psychology that is highly relevant to you as an entrepreneur or investor, because your success as an entrepreneur or an investor is completely and totally dependent on your ability to stack high quality decisions and choices on top of each other over and over and over again. We here at Palaview are all about stacking great fucking choices, okay? Now, I'm putting in this quote here by Richard Feynman. And if you don't know who Richard Feynman is, go read literally every single one of his books. He will help you think in first principles, especially on topics that are most related to first principles, like physics, which is his area of expertise. And his quote states, "I would rather have questions that can't be answered than answers that can't be questioned. High quality decisions are made when you are not afraid to question everything." Now, I want you guys to look at this book. I'm showing it to you on the screen. I read this book 6 or 7 years ago. I was 22 years old. I was kind of crushing it, totally crushing it. And my sister was actually a little bit upset with me because she felt that my ego was a little bit out of whack. And, met Clooney and Igloo at 22, so maybe it was a little bit out of whack at the time. But I took it very seriously. I took what she said to heart, and I read this book. I read it all in one sitting, and I actually, after reading it, I got into a sensory deprivation tank in Boulder, Colorado for 2 hours reflecting on it, and I was nauseous the whole time. And this is the only book I've ever read that actually has a warning label on it, because it actually deconstructs how you yourself deceive yourself through breaking down all of these modes of ego defenses of self-deception. And there are these 5 parts. And if you want to take a screenshot and you want to learn about each of these individually, and if some of these, stick out to you as something that maybe you are doing too repeatedly, then, hey, you should do that. And the reason I'm making this video is because I need each and every one of you to be vigilant when it comes to understanding when fighting the problem causes the problem. And this is really the crux of this video. The core point I want you to make is, I want to make to you is, your life, like I keep saying, is determined by the quality of your choices. And what's so frustrating about choices, especially hard choices, is that they're actually trade-offs most often, right? You are usually picking between 2 terrible options when you have hard choices to make, right? So you're much of the time, you are picking between 2 difficult options, right? And when you become successful, right, you are empowered by the people around you, right? When you become hyper successful, people look up to you, right? And when people look up to you, they give you power. That is how it works, right? And there are severe dangers once you are officially successful, once you have yes men around you, once you are influential, and you have now a really profound sense of confidence and pride associated with your intellect, and more importantly, your ability to do things in the world. Your rationality, the limits of your rationality actually increase when that happens. And what do I mean? Well, I'm trying to help you guys avoid committing what Jordan Peterson calls a Luciferian crime, which is an act of extreme pride or hubris, right? Because if we go back, we need to understand when fighting the problem causes the problem, because many, many intelligent people, they will identify a problem in the world, and then they will, they will identify a problem they see coming, right? And they will seek to get ahead of it, right? And this is the crux of so many of the problems in our world, and some of the most beautiful things in our world as well. So I want you guys to avoid committing these Luciferian crimes. So what the hell do I mean by this Luciferian crime idea, right? And I'm actually going to use sort of a theological argument on why what I'm saying is true. And this is not maybe appropriate to be talking about on this channel, but I don't really care. So we're going to use this Batman Joker example to describe this idea. So you can think of Joker as the fallen angel of chaos, aka Satan. And you can think of Batman as the fallen angel of order, aka Lucifer. They are inextricably linked. One cannot exist without the other. Notice in the movies how Joker is always pointing that out. What would I do without you, right? Joker has no means to be a bad guy unless there is a good guy who's justifying him, right? Who is actually accepting him for who he is and empowering him. This is the nature of good and evil. A good person is a person who rejects God and tells God, hey, I actually know what's right better than you. I understand good and evil better than you. And the fallen angel of chaos, Satan, he rejects God because he's like, you're too limiting. You're too tyrannical to the people. I want people to be more creative, and I want people to express themselves more and to take more liberties and to, that's why he's related to music, right? It's all about self-expression. So, and if you really study like the Bible, you'll learn that what happens, right? What is the story? It is literally a story of how Adam and Eve come into existence. They discover the knowledge of good and evil, okay? And then what happens? Jesus comes and he teaches us how to transcend this operating system of good versus evil. So every good guy in modern society is actually, to some degree, a Luciferian. And that is what our culture is defined by. Our culture in America is defined by Luciferianism, as crazy as that may sound. Now, you may be so lost and confused as what the fuck I'm talking about, but I'll use Elon Musk as an example here. So, to really highlight this point, right? Understanding when fighting the problem causes the problem. Because Elon has actually very recently acknowledged that he's made this mistake that I am pointing out right now. He created OpenAI to fight AI. And he acknowledged recently that that was a massive fucking fuck up, right? Because what happened? What actually ended up happening? OpenAI is going to be the thing that actually brings general artificial intelligence. And he created the problem he was looking to fight for a fact. And he actually has already acknowledged this. And so what is he doing now? Well, he's creating Grok, X's AI, to fight OpenAI. And who knows what happens with that, right? He creates Neuralink so that we can merge with AI to keep AI from taking us over. But it doesn't really take more than a fifth grade understanding of Neuralink to understand that, hey, this Neuralink thing could actually be making us a lot more vulnerable to AI taking us over than not, right? That not too difficult of a concept to understand, right? Another example of him getting ahead of a problem when he's actually probably causing the problem. And again, this is because he's in some regards committing a Luciferian crime. And now I'm not arguing that Elon Musk is unique in his ability to do this. This is a cultural problem. I'm not trying to single out Elon Musk, but I'm trying to highlight something that's been normalized in culture, right? And then with this last example, he created Tesla to fight climate change, right? And guys, I've been in meetings you wouldn't believe I've been in, and I know what these municipalities in these different counties around the country think about installing these charging stations, these supercharging stations, right? They don't have the infrastructure. They do not have the electricity required for what these charging stations require. And then how will they actually get even the ones that do, or the ones that are willing to make those investments to expand their power stations, right, to be able to fuel keyword fuel these charging stations? They have to expand their coal plants. They have to expand all of these fossil fuel generating electricity systems to bring power to the charging stations, right? And like, I'm not an ESG guy by any stretch of the imagination, but this idea that Tesla up until this point has been a carbon positive company to the world is absolutely ludicrous. And it's to be determined, right? It's just not true. So really, you can think about an electric car outside of, like, I have friends in Puerto Rico, of course, who have their Cybertruck, and they've got, they got solar panels on their roof, and they actually do run that fucking car through the power of the sun. But that is a like the smallest minority of people, guys, right? So it's to be determined what Tesla's actual output is, but you get my point. Like, there's a lot of opportunities to make mistakes, to engage in because, and this is another Jordan Peterson concept, that like the most dangerous sin is pride, and a highly intelligent person's most risky sin to commit is pride, because the pride of the intellect is like just almost inextricably tied to most highly intelligent people, unless they maybe have had like some severe trauma or something. I don't know. So I also want to talk about Ray Dalio for a second, because Ray Dalio is another guy who I put in this category. There's a lot of people who I put into this category, right? Of people who are seeking to do great things, right? But they aren't actually as intelligent as you may think, right? And I'm going to have to single out Elon here again too, because Elon is obviously running a space company, electric car company, and whatever else, Neuralink. Who knows what else he's doing with X and his investments on the side? Like, his time allocation is absurd, and he's talking about, preaching about having all these children, right? To me, these are contradictory goals, right? And Elon Musk's son transitioned to become a girl, guys. Like, Walter Isaacson, this is not me like putting out his dirty laundry, which I'm about to do with Ray Dalio here in a second, actually. But Elon Musk's like had Walter Isaacson, the most famous biographer on Earth, do a big, biography on Elon Musk, which I'm sure you guys have heard about. And he's talked on podcasts openly about how Elon Musk's kids, like many of Elon Musk's kids, resent Elon because, for whatever reason. And one of them fully transitioned to become a girl, right? And so if Elon's not able to manage his children, right, then like, is he making the right trade-offs? Like, because he can only rationalize these choices through, what are we talking about here? These ego defenses, right? His ability to deceive himself is extremely sophisticated, but that is where his blind spot is, right? And we all have this blind spot. It's actually the definition of a blind spot. That's what this video is about. We're talking about how to uncover, how to identify your blind spots. And so Ray Dalio, right? Ray Dalio was the CEO of Bridgewater, the largest hedge fund on the planet, right? And this guy comes across as so normal and cool and, and nice and all that. And he's talked openly about issues within his family. And then all of a sudden he leaves his CEO position. He steps down. And no one knows this, but I'm going to tell you right now. The reason why he stepped down is because, I'll put it this way, his son, which he's spoken about having mental health issues, engaged in highly public self-harm. We'll put it that way. He engaged in self-harm in a very public place. And that led to Ray Dalio stepping down, because obviously, I imagine his wife was really fed up with his bullshit, right, guys? So, why did I make this video? I made this video because I want you guys to be as aware of the trade-offs you're making as possible. And I really, 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 because I know a lot of you, I've spoken to a lot of you, I've DM'd a lot of you, you guys are smart motherfuckers. So I want you guys to not allow your intellect, to not allow the love of the world to usurp your true values. And if you don't know what your true values are, you should write them down, and you should do your best to live in accordance with those values. And if you are finding yourself prioritizing, certain business ventures, certain, like, trying to get ahead of certain problems, trying to solve certain problems, right? When instead of like you know, taking care of your children, right? And another risk that Elon's running, and he talks about this too, is like this idea of succession, right? He talks about the dangers of succession all the time. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with this, but like some of the greatest men in history have produced some of the most evil children in history, right? Like, and I'm not saying Elon Musk's kids are evil by any stretch of the imagination. They're children, I believe, still. So God bless them, and let's hope then that they have happy and fulfilling lives. But Commodus was, an emperor of Rome, and he was Marcus Aurelius's son, and he was one of the most evil people I've ever read about. He basically enslaved his sister and was like trying to force her to like sleep with him and like marry him. It was like the most grotesque thing ever, right? So just be wary of becoming too great in the eyes of the world and that resulting to you sacrificing your children, because everything is a fucking trade-off. Life is defined by hard choices, and your success as an entrepreneur and investor is a completely directly causally associated with the how high quality of decisions you can stack up on top of each other. And I use this Batman Joker example to kind of highlight to you guys another perspective on the culture that we live in. Okay, we just to continue to use this biblical language, because I honestly don't know how to communicate these ideas in a non-biblical sense, but I'm going to do my best. But basically, it's like Adam and Eve, they discovered the knowledge of good and evil, right? Which is essentially they're telling God that, hey, I have the ability to discern what is good versus evil, right? I know what the difference is. But that is not our role as human beings. That's like the core message of the Bible. So Adam and Eve, we fell because of them. And then Jesus came and he provided us a framework for how to transcend the operating system of good versus evil, right? So Christ consciousness is that. You could argue that other things are, but they probably aren't. And so this is obviously making this market research video, this market research channel into a Christian channel. Not probably a good idea, but I do think this is a important framework because it's good to identify. It's very important to identify when someone is engaging in these Luciferian things, right? Because that is a good guy, right? And the good guy, like literally think about how a good guy can't exist without a bad guy and vice versa, right? Like no Navy SEAL can look you in the face and say, hey, yeah, if I was born in Syria and Obama was sending predator drones to my house and he killed my parents, right, with these predator drones, that they would grow up to become Navy SEALs and to fight evil and, in ISIS and all these things. Like no Navy SEAL can look at you in the face and say that, right? None of them can say like, oh, if I was born in these conditions, I would have been, no, you would have been raised to, because if you're a victim of the US military, you're not, and you're growing up in a Muslim culture, right? You're not going to perceive the United States as the good guy. And there is no objective truth because we as human beings are not capable of discerning good versus evil. That's like literally in my opinion, the most important message in the Bible by far. So, how do we wrap this up? Stack high quality decisions, guys. And read this book. I really highly recommend this book, okay? Because you are deceiving yourself. And the smartest people are using rationality against themselves. This is the point I'm missing. Sorry. This is the point I'm failing to make. When you are sufficiently intelligent, especially linguistically, you're highly vulnerable to your own rationality because you're going to deceive yourself using rationality. You're going to use highly sophisticated rationality, right? Highly sophisticated rationality to deceive yourself, to defend your ego, to defend the things you shouldn't be defending and to not let go, right? And you're not allowing questions to be questioned, right? Like in Feynman's point here. I hope this was clear, guys. This is a little bit of a different video, but you're awesome. We'll talk soon. Peace.